Ever wonder how some people always seem to stay calm, confident, and in control, no matter what chaos is swirling around them? What if I told you that controlling any situation isn't about luck or power, but about mastering a few underrated tactics rooted in Stoic philosophy? Imagine walking into any room, whether it's a high-pressure meeting, a heated argument, or a chaotic moment, and feeling completely calm, confident, and in control. Imagine people naturally gravitating toward your presence because you seem to command respect without saying a word. What if I told you that this kind of control isn't about luck or power, but about mastering a few underrated tactics rooted in Stoic philosophy? In today's video, we're diving deep into 5 powerful yet overlooked strategies that the smartest people use every day to take charge, not just of the world around them, but of their own minds. These aren't flashy tricks or secret hacks. They're timeless principles that help you control how others see you, silence self-doubt, and stay steady even when everything feels uncertain. Whether you're dealing with a stressful job, difficult relationships, or just trying to improve yourself, these tactics will give you the mental edge to navigate life with calm and confidence. Ready to discover the quiet powers that make the difference between reacting to life and truly controlling it? Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll have tools you can use immediately to take control of any situation with wisdom and grace. Let's get started. Number 1, control the internal before the external. There are moments in life when everything around you spins out of control. People panic, tempers flare, chaos reigns. But then there's that one person who stays calm, not because the storm isn't real, but because they've mastered something others haven't, themselves. That's the quiet power Stoics understood long before modern psychology gave it a name. They knew the battlefield is never truly out there. It's always within. To control the internal before the external means choosing your response before the world chooses it for you. It's knowing that while you can't command the behavior of others or the conditions you walk into, you can govern your thoughts, your emotions, your breath, your attitude. It's the discipline of not letting a loud room dictate your volume. It's the art of stillness in motion. This is not passive. It's power in its rawest, most controlled form. I remember a time when everything in my world seemed to collapse in a single week. Work, relationships, health, one after another, things spiraled. I wanted to react. I wanted to scream, run, fight, fix. But instead, I sat still. I journaled, I walked, I got quiet. And in that silence, I realized the only control I had was over myself. So I held the line. And slowly, the external caught up with the order I had built inside. The storm didn't end, but it no longer owned me. You'll find that the more you train this discipline, the less reactive you become, and the more influential you are. People start to mirror your composure. You begin to set the emotional tone of the room just by walking into it. That's the paradox. By giving up the need to control everything, you gain quiet authority over how everything unfolds around you. Because when you don't flinch, others start to believe maybe they don't have to either. But make no mistake, this isn't about being numb or emotionless. It's about choosing your emotions rather than being dragged by them. The Stoic feels deeply but responds wisely. He may feel the chaos, but he no longer identifies with it. He sees emotion not as a master to obey, but as a signal to observe. In mastering the self, he doesn't become cold. He becomes clear. And in clarity, he becomes unstoppable. The Stoics taught this relentlessly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Epictetus echoed it. It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment of them. They weren't promoting denial, they were demanding clarity. The Stoic doesn't ignore the world. He simply refuses to be ruled by it. He leads himself first and lets that leadership shape everything else. Picture a ship at sea. A violent storm crashes in. Most captains scream orders at the wind, curse the waves, panic at the helm. But the Stoic captain, he's quiet. He grips the wheel. He doesn't blame the storm. He adjusts the sails. He knows the sea is what it is. But the ship is his to command. The world tries to make you reactive. It pushes your buttons, plays on your fears, and tests your patience. But when you own your internal state, you flip the dynamic. You go from being a pawn of emotion to a master of action. That's the shift, where clarity begins and real control is born. So when the pressure builds and the noise rises, remember this. Don't try to fix the world while your mind is on fire. Get still, return to your breath, rule your inner world, and watch how everything around you starts to shift. Number 2, let silence be your power move. There's a moment right after someone says something disrespectful, challenging, or wildly out of line, where you feel the heat rise. Your ego wants to react, your pride wants to strike back. But the smart Stoic mind knows better. That moment isn't for reacting, it's for ruling. Silence isn't weakness, it's leverage. You see, the Stoics mastered the art of stillness, not just in action, but in speech. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, believed that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Why? Because silence creates space, and in that space, clarity lives. You can't control the room if you can't control your tongue. You can't influence others if you're emotionally hijacked by every careless word tossed your way. I've learned this the hard way. In meetings, in arguments, intense personal conversations, I used to rush to defend, to clarify, to dominate. But it only added fuel to the fire. The moment I started pausing, letting others speak, listening fully before responding, everything changed. I had more control not just over the conversation, but over myself. And because of that, people started to lean in. They started to respect the weight behind my words because I didn't waste them. Here's the truth. Silence is unnerving to the untrained mind. Most people are so uncomfortable with it, they rush to fill the void with noise just to feel in control. But the Stoic flips this. He knows that silence is control. It forces the other person to reveal more than they intended. It exposes motives. It buys you time. And it shows that you're not ruled by impulse. You're anchored by discipline. Think of a courtroom. The loudest voices are usually the most desperate. But the judge, the one with actual authority, he speaks the least. He watches. He listens. And when he speaks, every word matters. He doesn't shout to prove control. He is control. Be that judge in your own life. Let others flail and fumble in the noise while you rule from within. Barack Obama was often criticized for pausing too much when he spoke. But those pauses were not hesitation. They were calculation. In high-pressure debates, interviews, and even national crisis announcements, Obama would let silence stretch for a few seconds before answering. That calm, deliberate rhythm made people lean in. It projected thoughtfulness, authority, and self-mastery. He wasn't reacting. He was leading the emotional temperature of the moment by controlling his own. The world may have been chaotic, but his mind wasn't. And that's why people listened. This doesn't mean staying quiet forever. It means speaking only when your words have weight, not when your emotions scream for release. The less you react, the more you control. And in a world addicted to noise, your silence becomes a weapon no one sees coming. So the next time your pride urges you to jump into battle, remember, power isn't proven by how loud you are, but by how little noise it takes for people to feel your presence. Rule your mouth, and you begin to rule your world. Number 3, master your inner story before facing the world. Imagine walking into a job interview feeling like a failure before you've even spoken. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind races with doubts. What if I mess up? What if they don't like me? Now imagine walking in with a quiet confidence, telling yourself, I've prepared, I've got this, I belong here. The room feels different. Your voice is steady. Your presence commands attention. Both scenarios might be based on the same facts, but the story you tell yourself changes everything. That's the hidden battlefield where control begins. Before you ever speak a word or take a step, the most important battle is already happening inside your mind. We often underestimate how much power lies in the stories we tell ourselves about what's going on around us. A challenge isn't just a challenge, it's a story. A setback isn't just a setback, it's a meaning we assign to it. The difference between someone who conquers a situation and someone who crumbles is not in the circumstances, but in how they interpret those circumstances. The Stoics were clear-eyed on this point. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we control our internal narrative, when we refuse to accept the negative, fear-driven, or limiting stories our minds spin, we take the first step toward true control. It's the difference between seeing a difficult conversation as a threat or an opportunity, between viewing criticism as an attack or as valuable feedback. I remember reading about Theodore Roosevelt, a man who faced one personal tragedy after another: illness, loss, political defeat. But what set him apart was his refusal to let those hardships write the story of his life. Instead, he rewrote the narrative again and again, choosing courage over despair. He famously said, "It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." His internal story gave him the strength to step into that arena, time and time again, regardless of external setbacks. Here's something too often overlooked. The stories we tell ourselves become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you walk into a room convinced you'll fail, your body language, your tone, your very presence will betray that belief. You've already lost before the first word is spoken. But if you rewrite that story, if you enter the room telling yourself, "I am prepared, I am steady, I am capable," your entire demeanor shifts. Suddenly you become the person who commands attention, respect, and influence. Imagine two actors on stage. One believes the script is a tragedy, the other believes it's a triumph. They both read the same lines, but their delivery, their presence, their energy couldn't be more different. That's the power of the internal narrative. It doesn't just shape your emotions, it shapes your reality and how others see you. When you master your internal story, you don't just react to life, you perform it with purpose and control. The power of controlling your inner narrative is like having a remote control for your mind. You choose which channel to watch: fear, anger, doubt, or strength, clarity, and calm. This choice doesn't deny reality. It empowers you to respond rather than react. Control your internal story, and you begin to control the external world in ways that others envy, but rarely understand. So next time you feel overwhelmed or powerless, pause and ask yourself, what story am I choosing to believe right now? Am I letting fear or doubt shape my reality? Or am I rewriting the narrative in a way that fuels my strength and resilience? Your mind is the battlefield where control begins. Win there, and the outside world starts to follow. Number 4, take ownership, the power of accepting full responsibility. When chaos erupts, deadlines missed, plans falling apart, people pointing fingers, the instinct for many is to blame the situation, or worse, blame others. But the truly wise don't waste energy on excuses. They understand that the ultimate control lies in owning their part in every moment, no matter how difficult or unfair it seems. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who ruled Rome through war and turmoil, didn't wait for perfect conditions or perfect people to do his duty. Instead, he took full ownership of what was within his power, his thoughts, his choices, his actions. When betrayal, illness, or defeat came knocking, he didn't retreat or complain. He faced it head-on, reminding himself that the obstacle was the way, and that leadership meant accepting responsibility for himself and the world around him. This kind of ownership is not about taking blame for things outside your control. It's about owning your response to them. It means you don't let the swirling storm dictate your mindset. You decide how you show up. You decide whether to rise or fall, and in that decision lies your power. I once heard a story about a captain steering a ship through a violent storm. While the crew panicked, shouting and scrambling, the captain stood steady at the helm. Calm and focused, he took full responsibility for navigating the ship to safety. His ownership of the moment didn't just save the ship, it saved the crew's hope, their trust, their will to survive. That's the kind of ownership the Stoics teach us. Not just control over outcomes, but control over how you hold yourself when everything feels like it's slipping away. Taking ownership transforms you from a passive bystander into an active force. It shifts the energy around you. People notice when you stand firm in responsibility. They follow because strength inspires. And when you take ownership of your part, even the most chaotic situations begin to align with your steady hand. Beyond just external situations, ownership also means owning your mistakes without defensiveness or excuses. It's the courage to say, "I messed up," and then learn and grow. This humility is not weakness, but the foundation of resilience. The moment you accept your role in the outcome, even when it hurts, is the moment you reclaim control over your future. On a deeper level, ownership reminds us that our peace and power come from within, not from controlling others or circumstances. You can't command every wave, but you can command how you steer your ship through them. That mindset frees you from the exhausting cycle of blaming and frustration and anchors you in calm, purposeful action. Think of a firefighter running into a burning building. Smoke everywhere, flames licking the walls, people screaming outside. The firefighter doesn't stop to blame the fire or the chaos. They own the moment fully, own their training, their decisions, their courage. That ownership drives them forward, giving hope and order in the chaos. Like the firefighter, you must take full responsibility for your role in the firestorms of your life. Only then can you lead yourself and others to safety. So now ask yourself this: what part of this situation am I truly responsible for? How can I take ownership right now, even if it's just over my attitude or my next action? The moment you start answering these questions honestly, you take your first step from powerlessness to control. So when life feels out of control and the noise gets loud, remember, the moment you accept responsibility for your role is the moment you reclaim your power. The external world might still rage, but your internal command becomes unshakable. Own your part and watch how everything else starts to fall into place. Number 5, silence your inner critic. The quiet power of self-control. There's a battle that many don't realize is happening inside their minds every single day. A battle not against external enemies, but against their own inner critic. That relentless voice that whispers doubts, magnifies fears, and plants seeds of hesitation. The smartest people don't ignore this voice, nor do they let it control them. Instead, they learn to silence it, and in doing so, they gain a profound kind of control, one that shapes every choice, every action, every outcome. Think about the last time you faced a tough decision or an important challenge. Maybe your mind flooded with thoughts like, "What if I fail?" or "I'm not good enough." These thoughts feel real, urgent, and convincing. But here's the secret from Stoic philosophy. Those voices are just thoughts. They are not facts. They are not your destiny. They are echoes of fear and habit that you have the power to quiet. The process begins with awareness, recognizing when your inner critic is speaking, rather than letting it run the show unconsciously. Instead of being a helpless passenger, you become the driver, choosing which thoughts deserve attention. When the negative voices arise, the wise pause and ask, "Is this really true? Or is it just my mind trying to protect me from discomfort?" By questioning these thoughts, you break their grip. You expose the exaggerations and the false narratives that keep you stuck. Replacing criticism with compassion is the next step. Imagine how you would speak to a close friend who is struggling. You wouldn't tear them down. You'd encourage them, remind them of their strengths, and help them see their progress. Why should you treat yourself any differently? This simple shift rewires your brain, fostering resilience and calm instead of self-doubt and chaos. One vivid way to understand this is to picture an archer preparing to release an arrow. If their mind is filled with fear and self-criticism, their hand will tremble and their aim will falter. But if the archer's mind is steady, focused, and calm, their shot flies true, striking the target with precision. Your mind is the bowstring that directs your actions. Master your inner voice, and you master your aim in life. Daily mindfulness practice can strengthen this mastery. By observing your thoughts without judgment, you create space between stimulus and reaction. That space is where control lives. It's where you choose to respond thoughtfully, not react impulsively. This mastery of the inner critic isn't about pretending you're perfect or never feeling doubt. It's about not letting that doubt dictate your reality. The more you practice, the more you'll notice that silencing that negative inner chatter empowers you to act decisively, calmly, and confidently, even in the most challenging situations. Consider the story of Fred Rogers, the beloved host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Despite his gentle and reassuring public persona, Fred faced self-doubt and uncertainty early in his career. Instead of letting his inner critic silence him, he embraced his vulnerabilities and used them as a source of strength. He understood that controlling his inner narrative allowed him to genuinely connect with millions of people, spreading kindness and calm in a chaotic world. Finally, remember that the inner critic often disguises itself as a protector, trying to shield you from risk and failure. But in truth, it limits your growth and keeps you trapped in fear. By learning to recognize, question, and calm this voice, you reclaim not just control over your mind, but also the freedom to pursue your greatest potential. So when you feel overwhelmed or second-guessing yourself, pause and ask, is this voice inside me true or just noise? What truth am I missing? How can I respond with strength instead of fear? The quieter you make that critical voice, the louder your true power becomes. And with that power, you gain control over not just situations around you, but the world inside you as well. Thanks for watching. Now you know 5 underrated tactics smart people use to control any situation, straight from the wisdom of Stoic philosophy. Remember, true control starts within, by mastering your thoughts, emotions, and how you present yourself to the world. It's not about dominating others, but about commanding your own mind with calm and clarity. Start practicing these strategies today, and you'll notice how much easier it becomes to navigate challenges, stay composed under pressure, and influence situations in your favor. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more life-changing insights, and share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Which tactic resonated most with you? Stay strong, stay steady, and remember, control isn't given, it's earned from within. See you in the next video.